Welcome to the Stop Over Drinking and Start Living podcast, where high-achieving, goal-oriented rebel women come to learn how to live a vibrant and fulfilling life without requiring alcohol to get through it. No labels, no judgments, no saying you'll never drink again. Just real proven methods to help you stop rebelling against yourself with alcohol so you can drink less and do more. I'm your host, Angela Mascenik. Let's dig in. Welcome to episode 356, Proceed as If. Well, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm actually wearing my hello shirt that Coach Steph had made for me a few years ago, and I love it. Anyway, I want to talk about this concept called proceed as if. And it's all about proceeding, doing things as if it's already happened. So you probably already do this already, or maybe you have done it already at some point in your life. Think about selling your house in order to buy a new house, right? So like, you know that you want that new house, and so all these things have to happen for it to happen, right? So you would sell your house, or you're creating a piece of art that you want to have for yourself, or maybe you want to sell it, or maybe you're producing something at work. Maybe you are in creative work at, like you're in advertising or something like that, and you're creating something. You start that as if it's already, or it is going to happen, right? So basically the idea is that you are creating something or want something to happen, and you start making plans and making decisions and doing things as if it's going to happen. So the idea is proceed as if it were true, right? Business people do this all the time. I do this myself. So for example, people want to open up a restaurant or open a bakery or a shop that sells retail items. And so they rent a space, they make their products, they buy the materials, and they work towards an opening date where they assume it will be successful and people will come and buy their goods. So I want you guys to think about proceeding as if you are already someone who has stopped over drinking or quit, okay? So what decisions that you make, what actions do you take, what do you tell people? So what does that look like for you when you are proceeding, I'm doing air quotes, proceeding as if you've already achieved your goal or permanently changed your relationship with alcohol? Okay, so that's what we're going to dive into the podcast today. So there is actual psychology around it. So the brain responds to what you believe is true, right? So you know how powerful your beliefs are, right? If you believe, I talk about this all the time, if you believe that alcohol makes everything more fun, then you're going to drink everything to make it more fun, right? So when you act as if, again in quotes, your subconscious alerts and starts aligning your actions and your feelings and your decisions with that reality. Acting as if it kind of bypasses any doubt, and you stop waiting for proof and start generating evidence through your behavior to make it happen. And so when you start doing that, right, that's when you start getting momentum. You're making these little micro decisions that are aligning towards this belief that you are something already, right? Each small action reinforces your belief, which fuels more action. And so you can ask yourself these things when you're thinking about your own relationship with alcohol. What if you proceeded as if you were already somebody who didn't overdrink? How would you spend your evenings? What plans would you make? What would you say to yourself after a stressful day? What would you say to yourself after somebody said something to you that you didn't like that was super triggering? So those are really good journal prompts for you. Okay, so I'm going to repeat them again. What if you proceeded as if you were already somebody who doesn't overdrink? What does that look like? Like, just explore that in a creative download in your journal. How would you spend your evenings? What plans would you make? And what would you do or say to yourself after a stressful day? Another really good question to kind of like get your mind looking at this is a contrast. So proceeding as if you'll drink versus proceeding as if you won't. Isn't that interesting? So how would those versions of you show up differently? Isn't that interesting? So a lot, like when I think about that, you would have thoughts like, well, I know I'm going to overdrink anyway, so I don't want to put 0 on my plan. Does that sound familiar? I don't trust myself to not have any drinks or only have one. That's proceeding as if you will drink versus proceeding as if you won't. Can you guys see the difference now? I think that you should journal about that and explore that or get coaching around that, right? To like reveal how maybe you're not proceeding as if. And the difference of being somebody who wants to proceed as if that this is already true and happening, or proceeding as if you are someone who still has the identity of being somebody who overdrinks, right? So what I am inviting you to do is looking at not waiting for a certain number of alcohol free days or waiting for you to feel ready, right? You can be that person right now if you apply this concept proceeding as if. And understand that your brain can probably have fear around that, especially if you aren't that person yet and you're trying to work on your belief system that you can be somebody who doesn't overdrink. So I want to acknowledge that there's discomfort and fear when your brain says, but we're not there yet and it's going to be hard, right? We want to proceed as if it's not pretending, it's just training your belief system. So I like to add a lot of these phrases to my, if I'm trying to manage my mind and think about new thoughts that I want to have, we're just going to practice being somebody who doesn't drink today. We're going to experiment going to this party just tonight and not have any alcoholic drinks. Okay? And that kind of like takes that pressure off that it doesn't have to be forever. We're just going to play with this a little bit, right? We're going to pretend that we're proceeding as if we don't do this and see what happens, right? And that gives you a little window. It's like a little bit of an opening, a little bit of permission to play with this idea of proceeding as if. Okay? So I want you guys to catch yourselves with the urge that you might need to wait, or you might need to feel ready, or you want to know for sure. So readiness goes through actions and trials and tribulations and evaluations and exploring and experimenting, right? It doesn't happen before you go through those things, right? Nobody is all of a sudden feels like, I'm just ready to stop. Like I talked about that recently on the podcast, right? Like that decision doesn't usually just come out of the blue. Like for me and my changing my relationship with alcohol, I had to be intentional, right? I decided to take a long break from not drinking. That ended up being about 90 days. And then I decided to plan drinks and that was about another 90 days. And then after all of that, right, and my 20 years of over drinking before that, then I got to the decision of, you know what, I think I'm just done. But I projected on to be the person who didn't use alcohol as an emotional crutch, right? I didn't fantasize about drinking margaritas in the middle of the day anymore. I wouldn't have let myself do that, right? I remember thinking somebody who doesn't overdrink doesn't think like that anymore. Right? And I wanted to be that person who didn't overdrink. So I had to start thinking like the person who doesn't overdrink. And so that is proceeding as if, right? Just like with my business, I had to proceed as if I had a thriving coaching business to get started, right? Like if I didn't proceed as if this wasn't going to work out, I wouldn't be here today. Like I never would have gotten started, right? You have to believe in the outcome that you want to have to get started. You have to believe that you can do it. Otherwise, you're never going to take the first steps, right? There's something that you hear or listen in this podcast, or maybe you're one of my coaching clients, right? Like you found me and you believed a little bit that this might help you. You resonate with my story. You resonate with the client story, right? You're like, maybe I could do that. I can see myself in these stories or in Angela's story, right? So maybe I could try that, right? You can see yourself in that future, having that future outcome. So part of you is believing that a little bit, but I'm just inviting you to do it more regularly. And when you're making your drink plans for the week, right? Go back to these questions. How do you spend your evenings? What do your plans look like? What do you do with yourself after a stressful day? What do you do if you're super triggered by customers or employees or kids or in-laws or aging parents? Right? How do you handle that? I want you to think through that as if you're not somebody who uses alcohol as a tool, right? Totally normal, an example. I'm doing this right now with my big bold move, right? If you've been listening to the podcast or if you're in my on my email list, you know that I'm getting ready to announce something. And this whole project, I had to start building, right, in pieces as if it was going to happen. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be announcing anything this coming Friday. I would have waited, right? Oh, I don't want to make anything, but like that's just not how work happens, right? That's not how entrepreneurs move towards what they want to create, right? I have to believe that this thing is going to happen. And so if I believe this thing is going to happen, I got to get all this other stuff ready so that when it's ready to go, I can go, right? Like I can offer this to people and talk about it. So I built a website on the back end and a landing page, and I'm inviting you to come sign up for this thing that's happening on Friday. There's a lot of different behind the scenes moving parts as if this thing that I want to happen is going to happen, right? It's like when I create a retreat, I have to rent the Airbnb for a whole week at a very high ticket price, right? Usually it's a house that accommodates multiple people. I have to invest in that before I sell the retreat tickets because I know that people will buy it and I believe as if it's already a sold out retreat, right? So I have to plan my events for the retreat. I have to, make sure I have catering and food services and book massages and excursions, all of that before I'm even really had sold out the retreat, right? It's the same thing here. I'm asking you guys to do. Believe that you will stop over drinking and start acting as if it's already true in your little decisions that you make every single day. Okay, so a really good question to kind of really bring it close to the day that you're in. You remember one of my best pieces of advice is focus on the day that you're in. Try not to get too far ahead. I want you to believe that your outcome will happen, right? And to be future focused in your thinking around your goals. And the way we get there is by what we do in one given day at a time, right? So today, if I believe this was already happening, what would I do today? If you are on a break from alcohol, if I believed that I never drink again and this was happening, this was my new life, what would I do today to support that? How would I talk about it? What small step would my future self want me to be taking right now in this moment? Right? So that's how we want to think about it. We want to think about our outcome with our future in mind, but really that's applying to the moment that we're in the day that we're in this 24-hour period that we can guarantee, right? So maybe this week or, after you listen to this podcast, maybe you start with making one decision this week as if you already are the person that doesn't have a drinking problem, who doesn't have to figure out they're over drinking anymore. Okay? The way to do this is start working on your belief system to recap it all. You want to start pretending as if, believing as if, proceeding as if first, so that your little actions and little decisions build to create that outcome in the future, right? Proceeding as if isn't some sort of magical thinking, right? It's a conscious creation of the life that you want, right? So, as a little reminder, as a little recap, I do have that big reveal coming on Friday. Okay, so we're going to put that link in the show notes and you're going to go sign up for it. And if you want to see this, I'll come out in real life and see how embodying this idea, proceeding as if will happen, plays out for me, then you should come and find out what I'm talking about. Because the people on that live Zoom call will have the first opportunity to sign up for this. And then if you've signed up for the webinar or the Zoom call, you will have 24 hours to watch the replay. So if you can't make it live, you still have first access to watch that recording for the first 24 hours. But then after that, I'm releasing it to the full email list and on the socials and into the grander audience. Okay. So you don't want to miss out. It's very limited and exclusive. So don't miss. Okay. All right, my friends, I'd love to hear from you on how you are proceeding as if you are somebody who doesn't overdrink. Send me an email. Send me a DM. If you're in one of my group coaching programs or a private client, let me know. All right. So we can work on that together. All right, my beautiful friends, I hope you have a beautiful week. Welcome to November. The time has changed. The new season is here, and you get to be the person you want to be. All right, we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.